Pakistan and Saudi Arabia enjoy close historic ties, said Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi during his telephonic conversation with his Saudi counterpart, Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi reaffirms Pakistan's determination to continue to play a positive role for regional peace and security, including the Afghan peace process. Information Minister Shibli Farrukh says the purpose of the rallies and processions by the opposition is to put pressure on the government, but we have brought corrupt people to justice. In Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Indian troops in their fresh act of state terrorism martyred 3 Kashmiri youth in Shopaya district. Emmanuel Charpentier of France and Jennifer Doudna of the United States win the Nobel Chemistry Prize for developing the gene editing technique known as the CRISPR-Cas9 DNA snipping scissors. The 15th anniversary of the devastating earthquake of 2005 will be observed tomorrow. A ceremony will also be organized in Balakot to observe the day. Rafael Nadal of Spain and Diego Schwartzman of Argentina qualify for the semi-finals of the French Open tennis tournament. Phase 1 of the National T20 Cup is complete as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Northern win their matches in Multan. Action returns to Rawalpindi on the 9th of October in Phase 2. PTV Sports telecasts the match live. Well, that's all for now. For further details and live streaming, do log on to our website, world.ptv.com.pk. Also, you can find us on our Facebook page with the name of PTV World and follow us on Twitter at WorldPTV. Thank you for joining us.
Sitar is a plucked-stringed instrument used in Pakistani classical music. The instrument flourished under the Mughal Empire. Sitar is named after a Persian word, setar, meaning 3 strings. It derives its distinctive timbre and resonance from sympathetic strings. Bridge design, a long hollow neck, and a gourd-shaped resonance chamber. There are many popular modern styles of sitar, offered in a variety of sub-styles and decorative patterns.
Passion for polo will be the highest on the world's highest polo ground. Chandur invites visitors to experience a traditional polo tournament between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The tournament is held on Chandur Pass, the highest polo ground in the world, at 3,700 meters above sea level. The first time a polo tournament took place on the Chandur Pass was in 1936. It is a place unique and exotic in itself, surrounded by some of the most spectacular mountain scenery in the world. The event marks the annual rivalry between the teams of Chitral and Gilgit. The polo tournament has some added attractions for the visitors: trout fishing at the nearby streams and lakes, and a festival of folk dances and music of northern Pakistan. The event in itself offers a fascinating insight into the lifestyle of the people of this region. Their culture and indigenous customs are a delight to behold for the visitors. Crystal clear lakes, snow-covered mountains, alpine flowers, and vast stretches of green grass are added attractions. Fairs and festivals of Pakistan. The ancient city of Taxila is the heart of stonework in Pakistan. This art, which has been preserved and practiced for centuries, can be seen on many major landmarks of the country. Notably, the Pietra Dura work in the Lahore Fort's Sheesh Mahal. These stone products take days to complete and require immense precision and skill from the craftsmen. The final products are perfect for souvenirs, gifts and decoration pieces, each depicting the richness of Pakistani culture at its best. Camel skin and ivory craft are trademarks of Multan's handicraft repertoire. Camel skin is cleaned, dried and mounted onto molds which can be of any shape desired. Multicolored lacquer painting is then used to ornament the molds, which in the end bear a Mughal or Persian feel. Ivory is crafted into pens, chess sets, jewelry and other accessories such as keychains by the expert craftsmen. Such detailed work, while being extravagant, is indeed a feat to achieve, and craftsmen of Multan produce beauty with their work which is worthy of global admiration. The enchanting arts and crafts of Pakistan.
Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farrukh Pitafi. Once again we are going to talk about Pakistan's politics. There are many developments that we have seen. One, in Pakistan, of course, Pakistan's media usually considers political statements developments also. So today there were many political statements. Shahid Khaqan Abbasi, the former Prime Minister and leader of PMLN, claimed that he is going to register an Article 62-63 case against the Prime Minister. That is one aspect that is interesting, although the other case that we discussed yesterday seems to have taken a back seat. On the other side, when you look at Mian Nawaz Sharif's cases, today Islamabad High Court has decided that given that the notification could not reach Mian Nawaz Sharif, so the authorities are going to take out an ad asking Mian Nawaz Sharif to return to the country within 30 days. This is very unusual and big news, but everything about Mian Nawaz Sharif and his walking out of prison, leaving the country and doing his politics from there is unusual. This is interesting. Then Maulana Fazlur Rahman has said that they are going to actually march on Islamabad as well. We know that on 16th Gujranwala event is going to take place. Then there is going to be a mega event of the PDM in Karachi, and after that Peshawar, Quetta, Peshawar, Lahore, and then they plan to march on Islamabad. We are going to talk about all these matters. I want to understand what has shifted, because in past 2 years we have seen opposition repeatedly talking about how it has become a victim and promoting a narrative, but that narrative didn't translate into any kind of political action. But it seems that now they are geared for political action. While PMLN leaders are quite visible, one thing noteworthy is that People's Party's leadership is not that visible. Asif Ali Zardari sahab, hardly you will spot him on television. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, who is not ill, there is no ailment afflicting him. He is also absent from television screens. Similarly, many other senior leaders of People's Party as well. I'm going to try to understand what has shifted in the political atmosphere, and then I'm going to also try understanding what is the government strategy. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Azala Saifi Sahiba, who is MNA of ruling Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Thank you very much, ma'am. Joins us on Skype. Haider Zaman Qureshi sahab joins us on Skype as well. He is Central Secretary Finance of Pakistan's People's Party. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. We will be joined momentarily, we will be joined by a representation of PMLN as well. In the studio, Naseem Siddiqui sahab joins us, senior journalist, career reporter, and I mean from my own clan, so to speak. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program as well. I have to start with Haider Zaman Qureshi sahab. Haider Zaman Qureshi sahab, kindly help us understand these two issues. Why is it that your leadership seems not that much visible after APC? During APC, we saw you took a visible role, but after that, that doesn't seem to be happening anymore. Secondly, let me also ask you, for 2 years, we had more or less the same situation. What has changed right now?
Thank you very much, Mr. Pitafi. First of all, I'd like to come to your first part of the question, which is that our leadership is not visible. If any party has consistently done visible opposition, mature opposition inside the parliament, outside the parliament, in Gilgit-Baltistan, in Azad Jammu and Kashmir, days and days of jalsas. You have seen that over the last 2 years, we have exposed during both PTI MF budgets that the government brought in, and even before this last budget, we tried our level best to get the opposition to sit for an APC, but due to the ailment of Shehbaz Sharif Saab and unavailability and the corona factor, a lot of things were deferred till the situation improved. And we were successful, and Chairman Pakistan People's Party, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, constantly engaged with all political parties, even Akhtar Mengal Sahab and other allies of the government also, and we tried our best. And now that we have a PDM, we have a Charter of Pakistan, we have a steering committee, and the leadership will only meet, and they do meet. The last two meetings were held virtual, and Chairman Bilawal was a few days out of Pakistan on a personal trip. However, Mr. Zardari is obviously not 100% fit.
That answers my first question, sir. Let me ask you about the second question.
Committed.
Right.
We are fully committed.
The second question, sir.
The honeymoon period of this government is over, Mr. Pitafi. All the scandals that it used to drumbeat about, that causes the previous government, now they have their own scandals, their bad governance. It's almost, we are close to half of their tenure. It's almost about 23, 24 months. They are down that governance period. We have had a Atta scandal. No result. We have had a sugar scandal, 4th of April. The FIA report came, and then there was supposed to be a forensic audit, according to the Prime Minister, in 30 days. Nobody has seen any detail. Then we had a petroleum crisis. Then we have a gas crisis. Then we have an electricity crisis. Then we have a medicine shortage crisis. Everything.
So there are many crises who have propelled you to actually take action. Let me bring in Ghazala Safi.
We were always
sir, allow me to
that,
actually
but I think the country now needs.
Right, Hafez sir, I'm going to come back to you, sir. Allow me to bring in the other guests as well, who are patiently waiting for their turn. Ghazala Safi Sahaba, you have listened to honorable representation from People's Party, and you must have heard that there is a veritable charge sheet against the government, and they think that that is why they are coming out. Why is it that your party hasn't been able to reach out to the opposition preemptively to ensure that this doesn't happen? Because the country hardly can afford any kind of disruption, can it?
Well, to tell you the truth, that these parties who have joined hands together against the government at this point are clearly those who have had their own 2 or 3 terms, one after the other, and they have been in the government for several years, several decades, and after working as incompetent governments over the years, and have proven themselves to be the most incompetent leaders of the country, and hoarded the amount of money they have over the years, the palaces they have built all over the world, and being the poorest of the country, one of the very poor countries of the world, we have the very rich politicians all over the world. So, and then they boast, after having those 3 terms, one after the other, they are now very concerned about just the 2 years of government that Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has had. And from the first 1 month onwards, they have been saying things which seem like if they are actually not realizing that their own leaders have been very much immersed in corruption since so many years, and everything is open. The box is open.
Right.
The
that I get that. I understand. But my question was, why hasn't the government been able to reach out to the opposition? Because whether you like it or not, when it comes to Parliament, they have substantial representation. And in one of the previous programs, you agreed with me that the country needs more of cooperation rather than confrontation. With the exception of Parvez Khattak Saab, who has been from time to time tasked with reaching out to the opposition, have you seen any instance where actually the government has tried to reach out to the opposition?
Well, government has asked the opposition that if they have concerns and if they want, they have to send something written to the government to start off with some kind of negotiations that they have never done before. They have never even tried. They come into the parliament, give a speech, and move out, not listening to the other side of the benches. So this is very apparent and very clear, the message from the opposition that they do not want to, they just want to be there, but they do not want to follow what is required from the party, the members who bring in the people eagerly wait.
Ghazala Sari Sahaba, with due respect, I seem to be having a problem reconciling the two ideas. On one side, you're calling them this inept politicians from the dynasties from the past, who are corrupt as well. On the other side, you want to actually reach out, but you haven't actually practically reached out to any opposition leader, have you?
Well, our party, they are suggesting. Initially, also many a time they did suggest, but they are never ever willing to come on the same table with the government. You can see their behavior when the Prime Minister comes into the parliament. They walk out, they make a huge chaos. They're not willing to listen to even a small speech given by the Prime Minister, who's the leader of the House. So how do you expect to have any kind of a dialogue with that kind of animosity coming from that end? We have tried to pacify and try to bring in the opposition in all the ways that we can, but somehow they're not willing to compromise on any issues when it comes to the issue.
That's interesting. Let me bring in the third guest who is with me in the studio, Naseem Siddiqui Saab. You have listened to the opposition's point of view. In fact, the party that has given this country constitution, 18th Amendment and many other things, you have listened to government side as well. I simply want to understand what has shifted in past 2 years, because for 2 years we had more or less the same kind of situation. It doesn't seem to be happening anymore. What has shifted?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, Farrukh. It reminds the things happening these days. It reminds me the bickering politics of 90s.
Right.
Both of the parties, like PTI or opposition, they are going on petty and trivial matters at the moment. So they are supposed to bring something for the people of Pakistan. They should give something. Opposition, as they are in the opposition, so they are not doing anything positive. They are just looking after their back. Everybody is scratching everybody's back. They just want to get rid of these NAP cases. They don't have any interest in something bringing good for the people of Pakistan.
You're talking about opposition.
Whereas PTI government, if they are saying they are doing very good, there are not many corruption cases against them, but you can see that economic condition of Pakistan is getting worse every day.
How do you say that?
Like people don't have employments and the inflation rate has been.
You realize that it is a global phenomenon. Although earlier you said that they might not have that kind of corruption cases against them. Hadar Zaman Quraishi Sahab just mentioned many scandals that have surfaced.
But you know, the scandals are with People's Party as well. There are too many.
Right.
So this is, court has to decide when they will come into power, if People's Party, or then they can decide that what the corruption they have done. But nothing positive is being done from the side of opposition or from the side of government for the people of Pakistan who are suffering at the moment.
Right. I'm told Dr. Nisar Cheema, MNA of Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz, joins us on telephone. And Dr. Saab, thank you very much for joining us. The question once again, and repeatedly in this program, you have agreed with me that there is a need for reconciliation in the country. But on one side, we see a lot of things happening. For example, the new narrative that your party seems to have adopted, where you are going to confront not only the government, but the entire state of Pakistan. On the other side, Mian Nawaz Sharif is sitting abroad. The promise was that he is going to come back to the country after the operation. And so far, we haven't seen him actually visiting our hospital. What to talk about that procedure? Do help us understand how do you reconcile the two positions?
Well, because Nawaz Sharif will come back as soon as his doctors in the UK allow him to travel to Pakistan, and he will immediately return back to Pakistan without any delay. Without any delay, he is very keen, very anxious to come back as early as possible. I assure you.
Today, Islamabad High Court has actually decided that the authorities are going to take out an advertisement warning Mian Nawaz Sharif to come back within 1 month. If he doesn't, he is already declared a proclaimed offender, but then this matter can be taken to in other direction as well. Do you think that Mian Nawaz Sharif actually reads Pakistani papers?
Because, as you know, Mian Nawaz Sharif, who has been the Prime Minister of Pakistan for 3 times, he appeared in the court for more than 100 times, as you know, and with the permission. Can I quote the example of General Musharraf, who abrogated the Constitution twice, and he made mockery of the whole judicial system, the entire legal system, and ridiculed the court. And he was able to flee scot-free, as you know. When just compare the two personalities. The man who appeared in the court, who practically showed all the respect for the court, for the law of the land, for the courts of the land, appeared for more than 100 times in the court when summoned by the court. And then he was allowed to go abroad by the court, and on the recommendation of the official medical board, comprising the doctors who were the employees of the Punjab government.
But Chima Sahab, you understand that while you can compare any politician with the other, one of them will be in this case a convict. Mian Nawaz Sharif might have complied with all the procedures, all the institutions, but the fact is that he was punished and he was behind bars. And it is exceptional that a person is allowed to not only walk out of the prison, but leave the country. But there was some kind of affirmation, there was an undertaking by your party. At this moment, it seems that he is, mashallah, healthy enough to deliver 1 hour of speech on television, but he can't actually go to the hospital to get treated.
Although I can't hear you very clearly, but as I can understand your question, you're talking about the undertaking given when Mian Nawaz was allowed by the court to go abroad for treatment.
Let me move
the
on.
undertaking.
Let me ask one more question. I understand that you're traveling at this moment. So let me ask you one more question, and that is about PDM's schedule for public rallies. And the biggest concern that we have heard, we have seen, is of resurgence of coronavirus. Your party is one of those that have been criticizing the government for not locking down the country. And now you're going to actually try to pull crowds, and there is a possibility that people might get infected.
I don't know what's the problem. I think there's some signal problem. Could you please repeat the question?
Okay, I understand that you are traveling. Chima Sahab, thank you very much for being part of the program. Let me go back to Hafiz Zaman Sahab, and I understand Naseem Siddiqui Sahab, I'll come to you for a detailed comment later. But Hafiz Zaman Qureshi Sahab, let me ask you this question. I remember when coronavirus, COVID-19 actually started haunting Pakistan, Sindh government was the first one to actually spring into action and went for lockdowns. And then it kept on saying that the federal government is not taking the matter seriously. But now it seems that recently we saw other rallies by your party in Karachi, and now you're going to hold this mega event in Karachi as well. on 18th. Can you explain to us how do you actually reconcile these two positions, sir?
There is no problem in reconciling these two positions, Mr. Pitafi. As far as the government is concerned, they have been categorically and drum beating about that they have, due to their policies and far-sightedness, they have taken the country out of Corona, and obviously Corona is no more there and the SOPs are not being followed or being enforced. The government has opened up every sector and business is as normal. As far as implementation of whatever the SOPs were and are in place, they will be observed and adhered as and when they are enforced. But let's not let this government evade accountability and hide behind now Corona. We can't allow that. The people of Pakistan have to be on the streets and they have to agitate against the failure and incompetence of the government in power, number one. Number two, I want to respond to what Mr. Siddiqui said earlier on. Obviously, he can refer to a lot of scandals and corruption mantra which has been drumbeated by PTI and over the last 10 years. But obviously today, 118 billion scandal of NHA and teamed up with Habib Bank came before the Public Accounts Committee. I told you, nothing will come out of the FIA. The NRO was given to the cronies of this government. Zulfi Bukhari has left, all other cronies have left. There are other scandals, the medicine scandal. What happened to Mr. Kiani? Nothing will happen. The CM Punjab gets
but earlier you said something to Dashi Sahab that was quite intriguing. You said that the government cannot evade accountability and the people of Pakistan will come to the streets. But amazingly, your party believes in parliamentary democracy and there is a parliament where you have representation. Why can't you actually hold the government responsible or accountable in the parliament? Sir, are you listening to my question, sir?
Yes. I know what your question is. I read your mind very well, Mr. Pitafi. I know you from long. You're one
then I shouldn't be asking any questions. You can respond to all questions.
No? Well, I am talking about this specific question. We are in the parliament. We are very aggressively playing role in Senate and National Assembly, but this government is anti-parliament. The Prime Minister doesn't even come to the national security meetings. See what he did on Kashmir meeting. See what he did on Gilgit-Baltistan. And earlier the representative of PTI was saying, we are reaching out. Cite one example where the Prime Minister is present, reaching out in documentary form. He's a ghost Prime Minister. He's not there whenever there is a national issue where opposition is sitting and the army chief has to sit and engage with the opposition. May it be businessmen, may it be NAB issues. So there is no cavil with that proposition. And certainly, where is it barred under the Constitution that you cannot protest within the realm of law?
You can protest all you want, sir, with due respect. On the other side, you are also complaining that the government was not taking Corona seriously.
He will do whatever is within the realm of law.
Let me bring in Ghazala Safi Sahiba as well. Ghazala Safi Sahiba, you have listened to the charge sheets and the complaints keep on increasing. Once again, there must be a way to resolve this situation without actually, making an issue of agitation on the streets. What exactly is the government's solution? And if it comes to agitation, what is your strategy to actually handle that situation?
First of all, generally when you have a look at the whole scenario of this joining of hands of all these opposition parties, it actually does not give a clear picture whether these parties are on the same page for a change or not. We do not see them on the same page in the past, and we do not see them today, and we don't see them tomorrow. So basically, they are changing the venues, the starting point of their protest rallies and their jalsas and dharnas and otherwise, whatever they have planned for. They have never been on the same page to start off. So it does not seem likely that with this kind of a mindset that they've had previously, they will be able to go forward. And with the kind of with the repeated telling them that they will not get an NRO no matter what they try for. So NRO they will not get, and they cannot continue because they do not stand on the same platform. They will eventually have rifts. Maulana Fazlur Rahman wants to take a lead. Some parties want him to take lead, some don't. So there is a rift amongst among themselves. Let's see how it goes. Because initially there was a huge cry and there was a lot of hangama and they were making a lot of noise about their presence as an
I'm going to come back to you in a second, and I'm going to ask you about the so-called scandals as well, because there is a constant allegation in this program that there are scandals against your party, and I will need some kind of response on that. I'm told Zarar Khoda Sahab, senior journalist, anchor, columnist, joins us on telephone. Zarar Khoda Sahab, thank you very much for joining us. There is one question I've been asking since the start of the program. The PTI has been in power for 2 years, and opposition's narrative was more or less the same one that we are hearing now. But something seems to have shifted in the atmospherics. On one side now, opposition, even Mian Nawaz Sharif, were quite visible on television. On the other side, we have also seen that the opposition is springing into action. And now we are going to see some kind of public rallies as well. What do you think has changed now?
Well, I mean, that's difficult to answer, but one answer that I could possibly give is that, you know, you have the Senate elections coming up in March. Okay. And once that happens, the PTI will have a much clearer field. So there's a very limited window of opportunity for the opposition to mobilize and so on and so forth. Again, you know, I mean, that has been the historic role of the opposition in any government, right? I mean, the PTI was no different. The PTI spent hundreds of days, in fact, staging anti-government protests with an aim of bringing the government down. I mean, that was the later objective. I think that any such discussion, however, which does not mention the elephant in the room, I think that we're doing ourselves a bit of a disservice. Because ultimately, if you look at Pakistan's entire history, political agitation alone does not bring down government. Political agitation married with intervention from up top, from the establishment, that's what brings down government. Okay. So I think it's entirely possible that previously the opposition, or at least some member parties in the opposition, were looking for some kind of a negotiated settlement, what is in our common parlance called a deal, or if you prefer to use the PTI terminology, an NRO. I think that by now they have realized, or at least the PMLN seems to have realized, that nothing like that is going to happen. So you can't continue with the status quo. You have to make a stand. You have to at least show your support, at the very least. Show your supporters something, because one criticism that the PMLN had faced in the last, say, year or so was that, you know, you came out very strong, you know, both Goizato and, you know, Khalai Makhluk and all of the things that were being talked about, but then there was complete silence, right? So I think this is them sort of staging their ground.
Right. Zarar Khoda Sahab, since we are talking about all this, let me ask you, you actually mentioned the elephant in the room. And of course, 12 years ago, Pakistan had different kind of government structure. We had a dictator at helms. I understand that kind of context as well. And since the Prime Minister is pretty open about addressing this issue, there is no reluctance. But amazingly, if the implication is that something in the establishment has shifted, on one side the Prime Minister is saying that all the institutions are on the same page. On the other side, the opposition comes on television and most of the time berates all the institutions. You must have seen Nawaz Sharif's speech, Mariam Nawaz's speech, and so many other speeches, right? So how do you actually put all these things together then? Is it not difficult to understand that the elephant in the room has shifted its focus, and perhaps that's why things might be changing?
Look, our problem is that we try to assemble a jigsaw puzzle when we only have half the pieces. So you're only going to ever get half a picture, right? I mean, when it comes to the politicians, so fine, you can use their public statements, use their off-record conversations that you have with them, as a basis for forming some kind of opinion. But, just like the galaxy is filled with dark matter, so it's particularly politics, okay? And that is why the rumor mills, whether there's load shedding, whether there's an economic crisis, the rumor mills keep spreading, but keep spinning and keep producing, because so much of what happens in the power corridors, and I'm talking about the actual power corridors, I'm not talking about the parliament, I'm not talking about the prime minister.
Some kind of ethereal power corridors.
Well, yeah, you know how it is. I mean, come on, let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
So all of that is opaque. We don't really get to see that. We get to see it in terms of leaks, where like people in the Soviet era, trying to read between the lines and so on and so forth. So a lot of it is very difficult to gauge. I mean, as a general rule, if you give me a choice between, is everything a conspiracy or is everything chaos, I usually like to think that everything is chaos, because frankly speaking, to believe that everything is a conspiracy is a comforting thought, because that implies that at least there is someone out there with a plan.
Yeah, I know about the bit about embracing the chaos. I understand, but the Rarkhoda Sahab, I understand that you also have to prepare for your own program. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Let me come back to the studio. Naseem Siddiqui Sahab, once again. Now I have to ask you about your theory. If it is not a conspiracy theory, what exactly has shifted? That was the original question that I was asking when Nisar Cheema Sahab joined us. Please go ahead.
As my learned colleague Yadaz Zaman Sahab said that
he is not our colleague. He is a politician.
He is a politician.
The Rarkhoda is our colleague.
Okay. That person, respectable Yadaz Zaman Sahab.
Yeah.
As you mentioned that Imran Khan hasn't sat in few of the meetings. But as far as I have been seeing, I'm not a PTI worker. I just what I see. That Prime Minister Imran Khan is taking too many meetings every day, sitting in the Prime Minister office or Prime Minister house from 9 to 12 p.m. We have seen in the past that when Zardari Sahab was in power, he used to sit most of the time he's in Dubai, non-seriousness with the matters of the state.
And you're once again trying to trigger Heather Qureshi Sahab. Don't do that.
And you have seen, you have seen that Mr. Nawaz Sharif, he used to go to London many times. So you can
forget
see
about opposition.
Seriousness and the seriousness of present Prime Minister. I'm just getting back to the answer.
No, but you're not coming to the answer, right?
Because you know that PMLN tried their best to get NRO. And that's why you have seen that Mr. Zubair met twice to the Chief of the Army Staff. And that's all been revealed in the news. So when they saw that that's the dead end, there is no NRO being given to the politicians. Now, I'll come back to
hang on. This is a good argument, very interesting argument. Zubair Sahab, does he represent PDM or PMLN?
He is representing Maryam Nawaz and Nawaz Sharif.
Right. So why is People's Party joining them?
The People's Party, because they have got their own interest. So that's why they are.
There must be multiple attempts to get what you call NRO.
Definitely, everybody is looking for the NRO at the moment. And I'm referring one of the statement I've listened yesterday. That was from a businessman. He's called Siraj Teli. I think he was saying that we all businessmen have decided that if these looters, plunderers are going,
quote unquote,
that if they are coming back and they are going to rule us, then we are going to leave Pakistan. We are going to take our investments out of Pakistan, because when these politicians come into power and they are doing their businesses.
Then ask those businessmen to create or form a political party and come into politics.
They say that
politics has
nothing to do with the businesses. Those who are coming into power,
let me ask
those
you,
who are doing.
I'm glad that you actually gave us your theory, right? Let me ask you about two other things. One, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari and Asif Ali Zardari not being that active on PDM front. Sheikh Rashid has an answer. Sheikh Rashid says that they were expecting that Bilawal Bhutto Zardari will be the leader of PDM, and they made Maulana Fazlur Rahman the leader. Is it true?
Yeah, that's true as well. And when there was all parties conference,
Okay.
that was hijacked by Mr. Nawaz Sharif by his speech. When the Zarisa
They
came,
were hosting.
when
They already allowed the space.
yeah, but you have seen that when Zardari Saab came and he talked just 5-10 minutes,
Okay.
and after that you have seen that Mr. Nawaz Sharif was, his speech was like, I think it was more than 1 hour.
No,
and
it was 55 minutes.
55,
Yeah.
like 1 hour.
Yeah.
And he was just talking about the institutions of Pakistan, from where you can see that the People's Party is not going to support the arguments of Mr. Mohammad Nawaz
Then
Sharif.
why
So
did they-
differences started from there.
No, but then why did they allow the agreement to be reached? At the end, it was People's Party show.
Actually, it was People's Party show, but they were not going to ruin that one, so
Okay.
that they signed. But he was expecting that Bilawal will be made the president of that PDM, and
They-
as Shehbaz Sharif said
Do you-
earlier as well.
Do you
but
think there was a demand that was made by People's Party to make him the leader?
they were expecting, because as Shehbaz
Certainly.
Sharif, leader
They are
of
politicians. I mean, they are not students of
some,
6th grade.
when Shehbaz Sharif said that this young boy will be leading us,
Right.
they were expecting that Bilawal will be made the president of that
Right.
PDM.
Haider Zaman Sahab, a telepath, although you are, but let me ask you to answer, to actually comment on this question. What Sheikh Rashid Sahab has said. Was there any expectation from your party's side that Bilawal Bhutto Zardari will be made the leader of PDM?
It's very interesting, Mr. Pitafi, that what Mr. Siddiqui said a while back, and what you are saying. You see, Sheikh Rashid,
I'm asking.
he should focus on his
I'm not saying anything.
100 accidents under 100 accidents under his 2-year tenure as railway minister. He wouldn't have a clue what is happening in his own ministry. But when it comes to prophecies, when it comes to fake news, dissemination of nonsensical information, you'll always find him on prime time. So let's not take him seriously. He's a product, he's a self-proclaimed spokesman, whereas there is no notification from the concerned institution. So People's Party main objective, and I think we have been extremely successful, was to get all of them together and agree on a minimalistic cooperation agenda. As far as these theories are concerned, then Mr. Bilawal was expecting to lead PDM. Of course not. There was no such expectation, and there is no such expectation. He is the leader of a political party which is still the largest presence in Senate, as well as other assemblies, and TMLN being the leader of the opposition in National Assembly, and Maulana Fazlur Rahman, he's got much more experience than any of the parliamentary leaders in the parliament right now when it comes to educational politics. So the PDM parties decided that he should lead. It is not a single party's decision. So we are on board, and all effort of government and government spokesmen and ministers, except rather than focusing on their own government, improving their governance, they are worried about why Mr. Bilawal is not the leader of PDM, or whether opposition will be together,
No, but,
or why the venue.
I tell you, sir, your party should be grateful that they are actually pointing out that Bilawal Bhutto can be made head of the PDM. Right? I mean, he is a young leader. So if they are suggesting that he should be made leader, that is a good suggestion. Now, let me go back to...
Why should not Mr. Bilawal lead Pakistan once we are able to topple this government?
That is up to the voters, sir. That is not up to me. Right?
Yeah, of course. Well, we have to galvanize the voters, and he's going to be there. And leadership is, Mr. Pitafi, you do know that leadership is not just about being chairperson of a movement. Leadership is about your vision. Leadership is about what you say to the masses. Leadership is about charisma and appeal. And I'm sure Chairman Pakistan People's Party has his own niche appeal. And you will see.
And let us hope we see a lot of test of that charisma as well, because politics, and the beautiful thing about democracy is that it gives people plenty of chance to see and to actually evaluate leaders on pure merit. Ghazala Safi Sahib, I am told that we are left with 1 or 1.5 minutes. I am bringing the discussion to you for a conclusion. Please go ahead and give us a conclusion.
Well, the conclusion is quite clear that the kind of thoughts that prevail in the minds of those who are planning to educate, they are going to bring agitation on the streets, is clearly defined by the Honorable leader of Pakistan People's Party, that they want to bring agitation on the roads of Pakistan and agitation at the point of economic downfall, which was actually brought in by the previous government. And now after COVID situation, when the whole world is suffering economically, including our own country, they want to bring the people much lower ebb of economy by bringing education on the street.
Right.
So,
Ghazala Safi Sahaba, there seems to be some problem with your line as well. Your voice is breaking up, but I'm also told that we have to conclude the program here. So, Ghazala Safi Sahaba, thank you very much for being part of the program. Hadar Zaman Qureshi Sahab, thank you very much sir, for your valuable time as well. Zarad Khodo and Dr. Nisar Cheema also joined us on telephone. Thank you very much to them as well. And Naseem Siddiqui Sahab, thank you very much for being part of the program, physically coming here. I'm personally grateful. Viewers, you have listened to the participants. The discussion will go on because politics never stops. But the point is, right now we are talking mostly about the agendas of political parties rather than the concerns of the people of Pakistan. There are many concerns. Let us hope that media that is usually obsessed with the politicians rather than the people, and that politics that is usually controlled by few dynasties actually shifts from that and focuses on the well-being of the common man, because that is very important. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.
These are the forests of Ayubia National Park. Pakistan's last stretch of moist, temperate forest. Monsoon clouds constantly hover over the tall pine trees. They release rain, move on, only to be replaced by new ones. rains are the sustainer of life in the forest, giving rise to majestic pine trees and nourishing unique flora and fauna. As the rainwater flows over the forest floor, it is absorbed by the earth. The rest seeps into rock crevices, eventually forming magnificent waterfalls and springs of crystal clear water. The roots of these massive trees anchor into the earth and spread over the forest floor, holding the soil and rock firmly together. Without these trees that act as barriers, the mountains would crumble. Water would wash away the rich soil, make the slopes barren and lifeless. The forest provides home to countless creatures. The hollow tree trunks provide shelter to birds and flying squirrels. The rock becomes home to the scorpion, and the dense undergrowth provides perfect refuge to rare endemic species of mammals and birds. The serenity of the forest is broken as a woodcutter chops away at a pine that once stood tall and proud. The threat from logging and deforestation constantly hovers over this forest landscape, threatening the forest and its creatures. These forests are also vital for locals who make use of the countless medical plants, vegetables and herbs that are found in the forest. The forest is a gift from Mother Nature. We should all strive to preserve this natural wonder for our future generations. This is not only our responsibility, but our legacy to the children of tomorrow, who may never see the sunrise from between the treetops and hear the birds chirp to greet a new morning, a new day.
evening. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching PTV World. I'm Fahim Bangish.
And I'm Sana Matpool. I look at the headlines first.